Welcome to this week's episode of Lagnapod. I'm Rob Holbert, your host, and everybody else who is here. Sound off.
Ashley Trice.
Brady Petrie.
Dale Leash.
Kyle Hamrick.
Tommy Hicks.
All right. We're almost all here. Brady and Dale have been covering this thing pretty heavily. Brady very heavily yesterday. You made your way up to Montgomery for this, but
deep in the Montgomery trenches yesterday.
The State Veterans Board, State Board of Veterans Affairs.
There you go.
I got it.
Yep.
The State Board of Veterans Affairs met yesterday because they were called to do so by Governor Kay Ivey to get rid of the commissioner of the Veterans Board.
Who's already agreed to resign.
Who's already agreed to resign.
At the end of the year.
And the board voted not to do that, but she did it anyway. So tell us what all went on and whether you felt kind of gypped.
I did feel a little gypped. I sat through a almost 2-hour-long meeting.
7 hours of driving. And
it was a very long day. And I remember I got that email yesterday of Governor Ivey announcing that she was just flat out firing Ken Davis. And I just sat there and I just started laughing. And I was like, you've got to be kidding.
Yeah, after you've driven up there, you've watched the board reject her attempt to do this.
Right.
Which, and some would say to even to strong arm the whole thing to make it happen.
Yeah.
And then she just
drops that on.
She waved her magic wand and said that she has the mantle of the what was the
executive
the supreme executive power. She waved the mantle of the governor's office.
The supreme executive power. She just overrode that.
Right. And
which is still questionable. I really wonder, does she have that ability to do that?
That's a good question, and I think we're going to try to get into that, over the next couple of days and kind of see what legislators think about that. But I mean, the board, they asked a lot of questions, to both Davis and Governor Ivey's proxy, since she was not at the meeting, and asked a lot of questions, and they ultimately voted 3-2 to say we're going to keep them on through at least December.
Where was the governor?
Nobody ever said. That's a good question. All they said was that she has a very hectic schedule.
An oxygen chamber, I think.
Yeah.
But so
flying to Birmingham.
I was going to cheek.
That is such weak sauce to fire somebody there and not even be there.
Well, cheeks. I think she was cheeks deep in some Johnny Walker.
I think that's something to point out is that she called this meeting on Friday, a hastily called meeting. I guess probably the background of all this for people that maybe aren't following all this, this came about a couple months ago, and Kent Davis resigned. He
agreed to resign.
She had called for his resignation
back
in September. He agreed to resign, and they agreed that he was going to stay there till the end of the year. And then on the 10th of this month, the board walked in, and his employers, his bosses, walked in and said, "We're voting. We don't want you to resign.
We want you to reconsider your resignation."
Yeah, and that sent the governor overboard.
And that's got to be the only as someone who has been doing this story from the start, I can't imagine what else would have occurred to trigger her into doing this like she did. Because I mean, her claims were that he manipulated the board, but he, listened to the way he defended himself, talking to board members who were at that meeting that made that decision. It's hard for me to come to the conclusion that he manipulated the board in any way to force them to vote a certain way or not. So the only reason that she could have decided this was that the board went against her wishes and having him rescind his resignation. And she's mad.
I mean, if he manipulated the board to have that vote, then why would he turn around after the fact and tell them that he is not going to reconsider his resignation?
He has made public comments to the effect of, "I have not made that decision."
So even after the board came and said, "We don't want you to resign," he said, "I'm still resigning."
Right.
Yeah.
I think his concerns, which he voiced in a letter that was sent to us, when they agreed to this resignation, he and the governor agreed to this resignation, that he was not to disparage her in any way, which he did not, and that also that they were to not harm his ability to get future employment.
Right.
And that, so it's clear he obviously is concerned about his future, his financial future, to the point where he's not exactly like, just saying, hey, I'm going to lower the boom on her and tell everybody everything there is to know about this. He's not doing that.
Right.
So, where this whole fury comes from, that she then calls this meeting last Friday and then says she's not going to be there.
Right.
But that everybody else on the board has to be there
In
or they
person.
cannot, in person,
Yeah.
or they cannot participate, which is something apparently that board has done frequently.
They
is
have
allowed
yeah.
people to show up via Zoom or to phone in.
And speaking of which,
including that October 10th meeting, there were
Right.
people there.
and
also.
one of his biggest supporters on the board, Ken Rollins, has been dealing with health issues. I mean, he's a Vietnam War vet.
Right.
He's dealing with health issues. He was not allowed. He would had to have gone in person. I think he voiced his frustration over that as well. No, and I mean, and given all of that, given that like almost half the board wasn't present for the vote, she still didn't get what she wanted. They still
Right.
voted 3-2 with two abstentions to keep him on.
I think it's safe to say that she tried to rig the vote. I mean,
Oh,
I think it's
100%.
pretty safe. And I mean, and really, I think if you look back at when she originally called a meeting back in September to get rid of him, her office was calling everybody on the board ahead of time and trying to twist arms.
borderline breaking the Open Meetings Act. I say borderline because I'm keeping it. You could make an argument that she violated the law.
I think if you look at this, you say, okay, she has possibly violated the whistleblower laws.
Yes.
In this thing, she's come close to violating or possibly violated the Open Meetings
Act.
law.
Yeah.
And now engaged in some sort of supreme
Power of the
wizardry that
executive
we don't,
branch.
yeah, that
Supreme wizard.
we don't know what that where this comes from. That she just, for whatever reason, we've been told the board has to remove him,
Right.
And then all of a sudden she just says, "Well, I can remove him anyway."
Right.
And so
Begs the question: this was all a charade, then? Like this was
but
all
it
just a
is,
charade.
but it also why is this such an outrageously important program for them that she's willing to butt up against breaking the law and
I mean, you would have thought he committed a
this.
felony or something.
You would think.
I mean, good
You would think.
Lord.
It has been I've just been blown away by the just raw power here to just using her power to just get this guy out of the way.
It's
like
scary that she can even do this. Like it's kind of scary.
Well, I mean, and it just seems like a guy that people really like a lot. Too.
Well,
So,
that's-
I mean, it's like, it's not like everybody's like, let's get this a-hole out of
Yeah.
here.
That's the other part about it is the whole issue of what occurred to begin with is nebulous, and it really that the issue that she claims that there was some sort of financial malfeasance took place months and months ago.
Not only that, the state still got the money. They still used the money. The money just didn't go to veterans.
No money was ever
money was ever lost.
No, I think it's pretty obvious. It's very obvious that this is all because Kent Davis filed an ethics complaint.
Right.
Yeah.
Which
And-
goes to your point about the whistleblower thing.
Yeah, he filed an ethics complaint against the commissioner at the
Mental health.
Department of Mental Health,
Yeah.
Kim Boswell, and who is a cabinet member who was selected by Ivey. And it just seems like this is more about punishment for that than anything
I
else.
think Ken Rollins said it the best. I think she got her feelings hurt, and she's
She's
trying to use her power to remedy that.
I mean, it's one thing to get your feelings hurt, but to go to these lengths, and I mean, and the people on the board have said that they've been threatened to the point of that the board is just going to be dissolved.
Yeah, we've heard that too. That
yeah.
the next step here is to get the legislature to dissolve the board, make it a cabinet position.
I don't know how this works, but if you get fired, does that affect your pension based on time served?
Well, I don't know exactly how that works, but I know that Kent
About
Davis
a year from
he's close to being vested in the RSA, and so he has a desire to get there, of course, because that's a big deal. To be
and his
vested.
family, he and his family are dealing with some health issues too.
Right.
So
So all this is really strange. So what was, you had a number of veterans in the room yesterday.
Right.
What was their reaction to the vote?
I mean, they were very happy with the vote. I mean,
Did they cheer?
They did not cheer.
Or clap?
They did not cheer or clap. But afterwards, there were hugs. There were, when Kent Davis was on the verge of tears. Afterwards.
So they kind of thought at this point that
it was done.
We've saved Kent Davis. We're going
Right.
to keep him. And I imagine that there was a lot of anger when they found out that the governor then had just wasted everybody's time and energy here. Yeah.
Right. And by the time that announcement got out, a lot of people had already filtered out and left and everything. But the few that were still around, I mean, they were very upset. And, it's like one board, I can't remember the board member's name. It's escaping me right now, but he basically said, that this whole premise that the governor's office has thrown out there about the trust and confidence in Kent Davis being broken down, it's really one-sided. The board trusts him, the veterans trust him, and the board was under the assumption that with that agreement that he was going to resign at the end of December, that was going to make this all go away. But then they didn't understand why the governor was going through all of these links to do this.
It is really something else, man. I don't know what the general consensus among the veterans we've spoken to seems to be that Kent Davis has done a great job, and they're very excited with what he's been doing. And obviously the veterans who are on that board overwhelmingly care or think he's done a good job.
Right.
Obviously to the point where, she was trying to keep most of them out of the room because she knew that she was not going to win that vote if she had all of them there. And she still didn't win.
She still didn't win it, right.
Even after that. So I don't know, man. There's only one. It's only one side where, like you said, there's only one side where it's coming from that this guy's doing a poor job, and that's from her.
Exactly.
And it really, I imagine there's going to be a stream of lawsuits that are coming out of this, and
1,000%.
Kay Ivey will be long gone before all these things are sorted out. But it seems like it really is opening the door to a lot of trouble. I can't,
I don't think she would have done this if she was running for re-election.
This is one of those situations where if we had an attorney general who actually did their job, that they would probably step in and at least talk about the ability of the governor to do what she did yesterday. But we operate in a Wild West situation because we have no ethics commission who will do anything, and we have no attorney general that will do anything. So anybody who Kay Ivey can do whatever she would like,
right?
And she's not going to suffer for it.
I mean, they actively seem to be on her side in all of this. Like the ethics commission and the attorney general.
Well, the ethics commission has no. The ethics, the ethics commission has no ability to buck her because there are still 2 empty seats on that board. Yeah. She can put people on there any minute and kick his ass out of there.
Yeah.
Pardon my French, but she can get.
So he's kind of beholden to.
He's not going to go anywhere. Yeah. He's not going to go against her.
Yeah,
and
Steve,
what's
the point of having an ethics commission?
And Steve Marshall wants to run for governor, so I mean,
I think he's actively trying.
Yes, and I mean, he doesn't want to aggravate her either. He's not going to do anything. He hasn't done anything. I mean, he's never done.
If there were ever a situation in where they would go up against her, I think it would be for veterans and veterans services and stuff like that. So if you don't start seeing sort of the coalition break a little bit over this situation, I don't think you ever will.
Well, the question is, I mean, we don't have the answer to how this is possible, this declaration of supreme power.
We're going to look into it. Yeah.
But we don't have the answer on that. But if you have that ability, then all this other stuff is just a dog and pony show. Then if she is able to hire and fire this commissioner and people and other boards like this, then why are those boards? Why do they even exist?
Why even 100%. Threaten to dissolve the board if you have the ultimate power to hire and fire the person they hired?
It seemed very much like that going into this, that the governor's office felt like they didn't have that authority, and then once they lost, somebody said, "Well, just say it. Let's just say it, and we'll do it." It's a fascinating story. Obviously, it's one we broke and one we've been covering pretty heavily, and so we'll keep after it. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back and talk about some sports type things.
Heroes Sports Bar and Grill now open 7 days a week at both locations. Ask about our new Hot Wings, the Singapore Sting, and the Nature Boy. Woo! Come have a clipper at Heroes, Mobile's own since 1998. Heroes Sports Bar and Grill now offers curbside 7 days a week. Call 433-HERO for Dolphin Street or 341-WING for Hillcrest. Try our kick-ass spinach and crawfish dip. And thanks for supporting Heroes, a Mobile original since 1998.
And we are back. Tommy Hicks. We are in the midst of a strange college football season for Alabama folks anyway that we've had.
Pretty much everybody.
Well, everybody, yeah. It's some weird stuff, but we've got, of course, the University of Alabama losing again, which is kind of unheard of type of thing for them to lose this many games this early in the season. And then, of course, South has had a little bit of struggles, and then Auburn, are they even worth talking about anymore? I don't know. They came close. They looked like they could win an SEC game the other day, but it slipped through their fingers.
You're up 14.
Yeah.
And you let that get away?
That strip club's still not cashing in on that free beer yet.
Diamonds has the kiosk that says the free beer if Auburn beats an SEC team, right?
I thought it was going to happen this
John Galanides might have been a little sweaty at that point. He might have been a little worried.
No, I don't think he was.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Well, what was it? 4 weeks ago, you had 6 SEC teams in the top 7.
Yep.
And now you look around, that's all. So they're beating up on themselves for the 1 point, but then also there's games where teams are letting situations get away from them.
Yeah.
So it's just crazy. I mean, Oregon now is the number 1 team in the country.
Yeah, that's an unusual circumstance.
Deservedly so.
Texas
but they're playing well.
Texas didn't have what it took to fight Georgia.
The only team that can beat Georgia is Alabama, apparently.
That appears to be. Well, over 50 games since they've lost to anybody that was not Alabama.
That's incredible.
Right. So
because I thought they were going to lose. I had picked them to lose this week just based on how good Texas looked, and boy, they came out and their Georgia's defense shut it down.
Came to eat.
Yeah.
Came to eat.
Are you Tom Brady?
I think Sark looks like an alien. He dresses like an alien.
Yes.
He disturbs me. Like
I didn't notice a lot of silver clothing.
Remember that TV show? Y'all won't.
Are you trying to say he looks like Alf? Because he looks a little like Alf.
No, remember that show V where they were V?
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
He's got that vibe. Willie.
He's got the same haircut as Alf.
Does he talk like Alf?
Nah.
He's kind of orange like Alf.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. He is. He's wearing orange.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, his hair's different.
I don't remember
picture,
V as much. No, I don't.
No, I'm sorry. I don't remember that either.
But anyway, I'm sorry that we've gotten off on the track here. That we're talking about whether he looks like an alien.
I like to see what tracks we go off on.
Yeah, it's strange. I don't know if that's related any way, shape, or form to his team losing the other day. But so what do we have going forward? I mean, you got is Bama going to get it together, or people? Well, is there grumbling among the faithful about the new coach?
Okay, come on.
I made
there
the mistake.
Is, but we're halfway through a season.
Feinbaum. It was on
don't
in the
listen
car
to
the other
Feinbaum.
day.
Never listen to Feinbaum.
I didn't want to, but it just happened to be on. And I mean, someone had written an elegy for the team that it was dead and buried. And
okay. Saban's retirement.
Oh, here we go.
We lost 26 players to the transfer portal after Saban retired. It is we are a very talented team and we're not playing like it, but it is a transition season. Kalen DeBoer is a good coach. Give him some time. Even Saban has said give him some time. His coaching methods will work at Alabama. They are different than Saban's. You got to give him some time. I know it's been a long time since we've been in this position, but I remember the Shula years. I was in school during the Shula years. It could be worse.
Do you think Shula was given enough time?
Yes. Yeah, he was given the same 4 years I was at Alabama. Yeah. He was given enough time, and he never beat Auburn, never beat LSU.
I meant eulogy, not elegy.
Yes,
yeah, I knew what you meant.
Sorry.
I knew what you meant. Anyway,
I believe he said
more
elegy.
Like a hillbilly elegy.
He probably did say elegy.
Yeah.
He probably.
But no.
It just dawned on me that didn't make any sense.
if we're playing like this in 4 years and we're struggling to beat we lose to Vanderbilt, struggle to beat South Carolina, then yeah, Caleb DeBoer
there's no way he would make it 4 years if that's at this level. No way.
Well, fair enough, but yeah, if he's gonna,
they'll burn his house down by midseason.
That's what I'm saying. We have forgotten what it was like in the lean years. We are back in kind of the lean years, and we're still 5-2 with a win over the current number 2 team in the country. So like it could be worse. We lost to Hawaii under Shula. Hawaii. So it could be worse. So y'all need to relax.
I think you're the one that needs to relax. It sounds like you've got a lot of pinups.
Blood pressure is rising here.
To kill 5 minutes of my segment with.
No, I'm just tired of Feinbaum callers being mad. Like, so get over it.
You know what you do? You don't listen to that.
Who's upcoming for Bama?
LSU for one.
Well, that's a couple. We got Missouri first.
Got Missouri.
Okay. All right.
I mean, that's no pushover.
No pushover. Easy. No.
Missouri, you got LSU, you got Oklahoma still, I believe.
Oklahoma sucks.
Oklahoma's not very. Oh, okay. Well, let's see how you feel about it in 3 weeks.
Doesn't mean we won't lose to them, but they suck.
Are the SEC teams at this point putting themselves in a position where they're going to have a tough time making it into the playoff?
No,
not at all.
No, they're still going to get at least 4 teams in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Jesus. That seems like too many at this point, but you're right. You're right.
It may sound like too many, but once it gets down and you start working it down, you're going to Texas, Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama. I mean, come on.
I mean, Indiana, Army, and Navy are not going to stay undefeated, right? So,
but that's the interesting thing about the top 25 now. I mean, look, you've got Army, Navy, Vanderbilt are your last 3 teams. But also up toward the top, you got
Vanderbilt's a good team.
You got BYU, you got Illinois, you got Indiana, you got teams that are not normally residents of that particular neighborhood,
and they won't remain residents of that neighborhood. I mean, the winner of the Big Ten is going to be Oregon or Ohio State, right? So like that probably have a rematch of that for the championship game. So let's not get ahead of ourselves. Indiana's not beating Ohio State. It's just not going to happen. Illinois is not beating Ohio State. Brady, don't shake your head and look at the mic like you're going to have some wisdom to impart here.
Wouldn't you have said before the year Vanderbilt is not beating Alabama?
I would have.
I would have. Look, if this had been last week, I would have said you're absolutely right. But my God, do you see the beatdown Indiana put on Nebraska? And I understand it's Nebraska,
big time beatdown.
but 56-7.
I understand that, but Nebraska is not Ohio State, friends.
I understand that, but
I mean, let's reel it back down here to our part of the country. So we got South has got homecoming this weekend.
South has homecoming this weekend. They're 2-1 in the Sun Belt. They are playing. Speaking of surprising teams, Louisiana Monroe, which is 5-1. The only loss that Monroe has is to Texas at Texas.
Okay. A team that was picked to be dead last.
They were picked number 134 out of 134 teams. Right. They are now number 58 on that list.
The picker is now, whoever picked that, they're out of work.
They're out of work now.
They're no more picking for them.
They no longer work for the Athletic. They go, what were you thinking?
Doesn't ULM's head coach come from UAB? Isn't he UAB's coach? Or
South Alabama. He was South Alabama's offensive coordinator. He was UAB's offensive coordinator. And then interim head coach when Bill Clark stepped.
And they didn't hire him, and instead they went with the name.
They went, and look where they're at.
Seems like a mistake.
On that very list, they're number 124.
Yeah, they're
out
bad.
Of 100.
UAB is real bad.
UAB is now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there you go. You went with the name, you get what you get.
Yeah.
But this is homecoming for South, but it's also homecoming for ULM just because of what we talked about. I mean, Brian Vincent was a head coach at Spanish Fort. He was the offensive coordinator at South for a while when Kane Womack was the defensive coordinator at South, both of them on Joey's staff. But then Cameron Blankenship, I mean, you can just go down. Ernest Hill, who was the former McGill head coach, he's the defensive coordinator for ULM. So they got all these guys that have been that have Mobile connections or state connections. So it'll be a big game for them. Trust me, they'll come in here with a big chip on their shoulder. They're 3-0 in the league. I mean, right now they're leading the West. So
important game for South.
It's a big game for South. They need to play well, which they did last week against Troy. I mean, Troy's got their struggles. You want to talk about people hurt by injuries and transfer portal and NFL losses and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Troy's team really got hammered. from last year to this year in that way. But South's defense played terrific from start to finish the other night. And if they do that, they've got a really good chance of winning this.
Yeah, well, good. So we got switching to high school. We
Yep.
got 2 weeks left of the
2
regular
weeks left.
season, right? Anything big coming up this week? I guess there's probably some teams on the bubble. There's
Yeah,
probably some big
a
games,
lot
but-
of still jockeying for position for playoff spots. Each region gets 4 teams
right.
to begin the playoffs. So you really play the first and second place teams get home games that first week, and the other guys have to travel. So you kind of want to
Right.
move up and place yourself. I mean, there's Baker at Fairhope, although they are both in the playoffs, they're playing for third or fourth place. They'll play each other at Fairhope this week. Same Orange Beach is at St. Michael. That's kind of the same thing. They're both already in, but you're kind of hoping to keep that position.
Yeah.
If St. Michael wins, I think they finish second to Jackson, so they'll get a home game. They'll not only be in the playoffs for just the second time, but they'll get a home game. So it's big. And then next week, college basketball starts. So welcome. If you think the football stuff is fun, Dale's going to have more fun talking about basketball than he is about
I am number 2 team in the country in basketball. Hell yeah, brother.
Well, it's going to be this is the exciting time of the year. It gets more and more exciting as we go on here in this next few months. So
Roll Tide, baby.
thank you, Tommy. We'll come back in just a minute, talk a little bit more, folks.
Heroes Sports Bar and Grill now open 7 days a week at both locations. Ask about our new Hot Wings, the Singapore Sting, and the Nature Boy. Come have a clipper at Heroes, Mobile's own since 1998. Heroes Sports Bar and Grill now offers curbside 7 days a week. Call 433-HERO for Dolphin Street or 341-WING for Hillcrest. Try our kick-ass spinach and crawfish dip. And thanks for supporting Heroes, a Mobile original since 1998.
And we are back. We have Kyle. You've been doing a lot of coverage on migrants here lately. We have a cover
Indeed.
story on people in our area moving to our area from other countries and their general perceptions of what goes on here and
Right.
which is, I think you found they generally feel like this is a pretty welcoming area, even though there's
Pretty
a
welcoming.
lot to deal with.
Yeah, there's a lot to deal with here, and that's what most of the advocates and some of the immigrants I talked to said was, it is easy to kind of get what you need here to kind of get started, but long term, there are some barriers there. The immigration process takes years. The language barrier, there's some hurdles you have to jump there. Getting the basics can kind of be difficult, but it is cheap to live here, and there are jobs and opportunities that are here for them.
I think the most controversial migrant story you've been dealing with lately, though, is this concept that there was going to be hundreds, if not over 1,000, Haitian migrants
hordes of Haitians
coming into Baldwin County and Mobile County.
Right.
Which
right.
Was reported by another news outlet, and sort of disputed by, or not disputed maybe, but a bunch of different officials said they could find nothing suggesting that was occurring.
Right.
This all came from a gentleman who is a whistleblower, a migration whistleblower.
Yes.
About 2010, he blew the whistle on a company he worked for that had
some labor practices there.
And so I guess they settled for $34 million. So he's created a cottage industry for himself about migrant stuff, migrant issues. And so I guess he told this other news outlet that this was happening based upon the word of a preacher somewhere up in North
one Haitian pastor up in North Alabama
told this guy that this was happening. He told another news source, and that got everybody whipped up,
fired up.
But you were able to talk to the guy.
Yes, I was.
Who was the whistleblower guy.
That's right. I did not think that I was going to ever be able to find him, but I was at a Moms for Liberty town hall in Fairhope. And
just for fun, right?
Just for fun, because that's what I do. That's what I do on Monday nights. No, I was doing a story there, and afterward, I was kind of looking around. I mean, there wasn't really anything, that I needed to like get some more information on, except maybe the migrants. And I was just kind of watching the room, and I was like, now wait a minute. That guy over there kind of looks like this
Jay Palmer,
this whistleblower, Jay Palmer. Are you Jay Palmer? And he said, yes, I am. So I asked him for an update on the migrants, the hordes of Haitians who are coming to this county. And he said, because of all the media coverage and public scrutiny, they're not coming.
Yeah, they've decided not to come, right?
And I said, really? And he said, yeah, they are not coming. As far as I can tell,
based on their reading the news, I guess.
Yep.
Fresh off the boat from Haiti and can read English perfectly.
Does anyone get more worked up than the population of Fairhope?
About everything, I know.
About coffee, the David and Goliath thing with Starbucks, books, shoving at the lighting of the Christmas tree. Yep. They're very excitable people there, but now since the migrants are not coming to Fairhope, not coming to Baldwin County, they have moved on elsewhere.
Were the Moms for Liberty or whatever they are, were they okay? Were they feeling better about this?
They seemed so.
Or were they more focused on library books the other night?
They were talking about a combination of Title IX and
I forgot
and migrants. Yeah, that's what we're talking about now is Title IX. That's the discourse of.
But by the end of the meeting, were they feeling that maybe the migrants aren't coming in as much?
There really wasn't a whole lot of talk about that.
Steve
Marshall was there. Barry Moore was there, and then this former Department of Homeland Security guy was there. And the ads that I saw for this event said they were talking about undocumented in Baldwin County, and I was like, oh, that sounds pretty pertinent here. There was really no mention of Baldwin County in those comments. Yeah. It was all talking about how the Biden administration's flying these people in.
Yeah,
they're not bringing them in by buses. They're flying them thousands of feet over your head so you can't see them. And that's what Barry Moore said, and that they are coming, and it's a election year thing.
But as of now, there is nobody saying there's actually people coming in at this point. Yeah,
no. And if there are people coming in, as I got into in my cover story, they're coming in very small numbers.
They're trickling in.
And the Haitian migrants that everybody's been focused on are here legally. Correct?
They are part of a legal federal kind of a parole program for Cubans, Haitians, the Nicaraguans, and the Venezuelans.
Okay,
they are supposed to be here. They have been vetted, I believe, and they have all the paper they need to.
I mean, if you really wanted to get obnoxious about it, you could argue that if the president okays their arrival in any form, that our Supreme Court has said as long as it's an official act, it's legal.
I think that was the USA v. Trump case.
Yeah. So, I mean, you could make that argument if you want to be annoying.
Some legal scholars could, yeah.
Well, so if the Haitians do arrive in Baldwin County, they may have a brand new a new event to go see. A new event to go see. Sand in their boots.
Yeah,
they can get some sand in their boots.
Oh yeah.
Welcome to Baldwin County, Haitians. So
come to this festival.
Tell us about. I'm sorry, I couldn't make it all the way through that.
They can live the dream. They can live the dream for $1,999.
$1,999.
We know you've just uprooted your whole life, but come and drop some cash down here
with Morgan Wallen.
Spend $400
Tell us a little bit about what's going on with this thing. Where are we on this? There was a lot of controversy whether this new country music festival is going to take the place of Hangout Festival or not. What's
spoiler alert? We really don't know, but.
Yeah,
talk about it.
Hangout Fest is not dead for at least this year.
Yeah,
and Morgan
next year technically.
Yeah. Morgan Wallen, it was announced, is pretty much taking over this year's or 2025's Hangout Fest. And
so Hangout Fest will become country.
It'll become countryer.
Yeah.
Even though you look at the lineup, there are some.
I was going to say
there are a lot of mixed genres.
It's country and hip hop basically.
I was about to say,
but it's not as electronica and stuff like that.
There's not as much electronica, probably not as much pop.
Yeah,
it actually is a pretty good lineup.
It is a solid lineup, and I mean, you do have Diplo, who is kind of an electronic DJ kind of.
Yeah, he's pretty
really
performance.
into him,
And-
3-6 Mafia is
him?
going to be there.
Yeah, that's him. That's
Okay,
that guy
him.
that you keep
Yeah.
listening to.
Oh yeah,
right.
I love him.
Yeah, so you hear-
T-Pain.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically Hangout Fest with just
Yeah.
a little less, electronic
With some
pop,
sand in your boots.
with some sand in your boots.
So what's going forward going to be the circumstance?
So after 2025, the AEG Presents, which produces the Hangout Fest, their contract with the City of Gulf Shores runs out, and so it's really up to the city as to whether or not they want to bring it back. And if it goes forward, there have been some concerns that Hangout Fests and Sand in My Boots would run back to back,
Concurrently.
right? And
So you could end up with 2 weeks of
Back-to-back weeks.
back-to-back
festivals.
weeks of festivals with 40+ thousand
Could
people
the
on the
city
beach.
handle this?
That's the question.
Would the
And
concert goers be eating their pets?
that it's looking that way?
If
Yes.
Steve
If it-
Sarkeesian shows up, then
They're
yes,
eating
he'll
the
be
dogs.
eating the
They're
cats.
eating Doja Cat.
That's right.
It's a problem.
There could be. Could happen. Yes.
Now, city officials say they have not heard anything about concurrent festivals, but that's kind of the speculation as to where this is going.
Where is that speculation coming from? Is it just people at the meeting saying this could be terrible for us, or what?
It's
I don't know.
actually coming from the Hangout Fest's co-founder. Is putting it
I
out there
gotcha.
that he sees this as a tactic to, have two festivals.
Now, he is no
and
longer engaged with the
he
Hangout
is no
Fest
longer
at all.
engaged with the
Yes.
Hangout Fest.
So,
yes.
Yes.
So I don't know. From what I've talked to a couple of residents in years past or whatever about the Hangout Fest, they don't seem too thrilled about it going beyond
Officials
2025.
didn't seem super thrilled about
They
it
did
either.
not.
I would
They did not
imagine
seem
somebody
thrilled.
would break the glass and pull out the pitchforks and torches if they decided to have 2 weeks in a row.
I mean, they'll
of,
just-
of,
if they-
of music festival.
If they don't get what they want, I think they'll just move it to Panama City, right?
Yeah, I mean
Wherever.
that. I mean,
So-
yeah, I mean that,
Yeah,
that
I mean,
seems like a
if
logical
somebody's
move,
willing to
but-
have 2 weeks in a row of
Yeah.
that's a huge disruption. I
It
mean,
is.
Now, granted,
It
it's
is.
a
I
lot
mean,
of money, but
it's right. It's right there, kind of at the prime time of beach going.
I mean, I think even in PCB that might be a little trouble.
Well, it is between spring break and summer vacation, so there is a little bit of a break there. It's not exact, but I'd be curious if you talk to businesses if they'd really miss it, considering that it's like a week from when people start hitting the beaches. I'm
Yeah.
curious as if they think it would make that big of a difference.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I talked to Grant Brown, who's a spokesperson for the city of Gulf Shores, and he's like, the logistics of dumping 40,000 people onto the beach for 3 days in a row, he's like, it's just a tremendous undertaking. I mean, you've got all these traffic detours, you've got, all this kind of stuff, and having that back-to-back weekends, it's going to put a strain on the city, I would think. But
you would
Like
imagine.
the only thing I can compare it to, and it's not even a fair comparison based on the numbers, is Bayfest. And we've done stories in the past talking about looking back at Bayfest, and there are some people that own businesses and restaurants downtown that thought that Bayfest was more of a disruption than was worth because of the way that the festival was handled. Hangout's a little different, but very much the same in the fact that it's all closed in.
Right.
Like,
yeah,
you have to leave the festival to go to the
Right.
private businesses and stuff. That was the problem people had with Bayfest. So I could see an argument being made by some of the people in business like, look, we were just getting off a spring break. Right between spring break and when we're going to make a lot of money in summer, you've got this festival where, if it's 2 weeks in a row, 80,000 people are coming down to listen to music, maybe they get to a point where it's just a country festival, because I think that they're going to make a lot more money off of this festival than they would normal Hangout. I could be wrong, and we'll find out. But
I mean, based on the ticket prices, if they
Well,
if they
you only need to sell 2 tickets to make your money back.
exactly, yeah. So
Well, I mean, I think that country music is obviously
Down here, it's a lot more popular.
That's very popular everywhere across the country. It's the most popular type
Most
of music.
popular radio station genre.
Yes.
in
And so,
the
I mean,
country.
you've got a lot of people who listen to it and a lot of folks who would probably show up for something like that.
I like
So,
yeah.
alt country. I don't care for pop country, but alt country is awesome.
It depends.
I mean, you just get some of that Florida Georgia line in there, and I'm there.
God.
No, you hit me now. I would go see some. That being said, I'd go see some Brooks and Dunn if the tickets
There
were
you
cheaper.
go. Well,
Brooks and Dunn would rock, dude. Like 90s country. Give
Look,
it to
the
me.
argument
Tyler
being
Childers.
the argument
No.
being if you go to those things and you're going to pay X amount. I went and saw Tyler Childers, and it was the most expensive concert I've ever been to in my life.
Oh, really?
Very
Wow.
very expensive. very
Jeez.
expensive, and so
Very, very proud of himself, man.
it definitely is. But I'm just saying, and he also didn't play any of his hits, so so doubly screwed on that one. But but you know, if you're saying, okay, I can go down there and I can see 5 or 6 different acts that I really wanted to see, and you know, what would it cost to go see each of those individually? It's a lot of money.
Yeah, if you're thinking
if you're taking your whole concert budget for the year and saying it's going to this,
Right.
maybe that makes sense.
let's say you and your wife go see, you know, you spend $1,000 on 2 tickets,
Yeah.
and let's say you have a place to stay in Gulf Shores, but you see 4 different concerts
Right.
that you'd see throughout the year. You'd probably spend $1,000, like you said, you'd spend $1,000.
Yeah, but you
on
just
those
have
4
to say we're not going to see any more concerts.
Yeah, this is it.
Yeah,
This
good
is our
luck, good luck with that. Anyway, but well, we'll see how it goes. It would be fascinating to have back-to-back things like that. I have a hard time believing that will come to pass.
I don't think that'll pass muster with the city council.
I don't think it'll pass muster with anybody. But anyway, we'll see. Well, that's it for Lagnapod this week, folks, and we will be back next Thursday. Thanks for listening to us.
Love you, bye.
The Lagnapod is a Something Extra publishing production. Executive producers are Rob Holbert and Ashley Travis. Music is by Sunpulse Sounds and Electro Animals. Only subscribers like you have access to this podcast. Tell your friends they can sign up at my.wingnapmobile.com. For advertising opportunities, please call 251-450-4460.